Hi, welcome to Leap Taken. This is Mika, and here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. So today I wanted to do a book review, and I really, oof, oh, I love my hair today. Anyway, look at this, guys. If you've watched any of my other videos and I talked about some hair issues, I'm gonna just take a pause for this, okay? Y'all don't understand. I was losing my hair on some foolishness behind for hormones, artificial hormones I was taking, and I I couldn't get this back. It was a texture thing, it was everything. But this is me with taking care of my hair, using a hair regimen that works for me. And if you have fine natural hair, you're woman of a certain age, or maybe you just put a lot of stress on your head, and scalp issues as far as thinning and all that. Let me know in the comments if you're interested, because I'd be happy to share. Because this is a weekly thing I do. I am serious about it, and I'm getting results. But all right, moving on. The book I'm doing a review about is Sacred Woman by Queen Afua, A Guide to Healing the Feminine Body, Body, Mind, and Spirit. So this is the book. This book was copyrighted in 2000. Just to put it into perspective, so it's not a new book. The reason I decided to do a book review is because I've been seeing the popularity of the group. Things come in cycles, so maybe it was good then. I think it was very popular over that time period, but right now, from what I'm seeing, it's getting maybe more of a resurgence and copies out of, at least in the circles I run in online. So anyway, the point was, it impressed upon me that, since it is gaining so much popularity, let me take a look at it. Let me put my little thoughts and review on all that the book is talking about. And I'm glad I did, because I have been seeing this book in Barnes & Noble. It pops up on my Amazon Kindle. So it's there. I just, kind of ignored it. So anyway, I never picked it up. That's not true. I was attracted to it, but I always reserved myself from actually getting it. And I don't know why. I just did. But, things happen, and, follow your intuition. So I read it, and I'm glad I did. So the book is written by Queen Afua, who, her picture is actually on the back of the book, if you can see. That's Queen Afua. And she is an herbalist, a natural health expert. She practices Afrocentric spirituality, specifically practice a Kemetic way of life. So straight into it about the positives. I love the concept of sacred woman. I think the title was probably what attracted me, in the cover art. Come on, this is so witchy, right? She talks a lot about healing from wound health issues. I was all for that. I mean, I was having womb the hair thing ties into that, by the way. So the womb health issues I had been having had been, severe cramping, heavy periods, all that sort of stuff. And so it definitely, she spends a lot of time talking in the beginning. So it definitely drew me in. And kind of painting, here's the problem, here's what's going on, here's what needs healing. So I could get into that. So I was hooked in the beginning because of that. She further goes into overall just the process, the gateways, so that you can reach a certain point of becoming a sacred woman. I love within that the speaking positive onto yourself. I love the rites of passage into feminine womanhood or sacred woman. I like that. I like rituals, so it's basically ritual. So I do appreciate that, and that's something you would think. Modern day life. We modern day humans aren't big on rituals as the collective. Obviously, some of us, and if you're probably watching this, are probably a little bit more open to that, but it's not commonly accepted, and people, they don't see the value. So I appreciate the book, the author, and I understand that because I did a little bit more research after reading the book, that she has a 21-day course to follow. There's a retreat or some place to go to, to follow this, to have this rite of passage. I do like that. I like that a lot. I like that she encourages journaling. as a sacred practice. Oh my God, that, because I talk about journaling here. And like I said, journaling can take different forms, because maybe I do think you should try to, even if you feel you're not a writer or someone who spells well, or you write too slow, or it doesn't feel natural, try anyway. Just write small things, write words. For some people, art journaling is the answer. So whether it's drawing something or taking other pieces of media and put it in your journal, a quote here, you know, a word that you cut out from here, print things out online, print the pictures out, because it's still, they may be your thoughts or a reflection of your thoughts on paper, and you took time to research. So it's, you know, very similar to just writing it out. Journaling is sacred. So I definitely, very positive for me, setting up an altar space, and I understand the altar that they set up. Well, it has different meanings, and I know they talk about the elements and the purpose of the altar for that, and then possibly ancestral, you know, reverence there. The positive is definitely meditation. She talks about meditation and eating a balanced diet that includes not eating meat. So I'm big on that. I looked at some reviews, because when I look at something, I like to look at the information about the author. I look at the, you know, reviews of the book. I checked the whole thing out. The retreat, I went to the Better Business Bureau to see if people had any comments about it, you know, if it's a scam. I thoroughly researched this, you know, to do just this little video here, just to be clear. So anyway, yeah, so the whole, because she has another book, Healing by Self, but there's a lot about diet in this book. There's a lot about, you know, why it's important not to eat meat, why it's important to eat raw, live foods, and overall how if you're cleansed, because they talk a lot about cleansing internally, then what happens is, obviously physically, you'll be better off, but also spiritually, you're more receptive, you're more clear thinking. So that's why you want to have a balanced diet, which, come on, that makes sense. Just, it's balance, right? So, and finally, you know, overall the book is about, you know, a spiritual and cultural journey for women, Black women. Specifically, she writes this with African American women in mind. So, my further understanding of reading of this is the Kemetic way of life. It's not a religion. Initially, as I was reading, I was forming, like, thought bubbles were coming up, like, this sounds very religious, and I'll get back to that in a moment. But the point is, it's technically, not technically, they say it's not, it's a way of life, it's just the way they do things. So that's the other thing. And Kemetic, and I'm looking down at my notes when I look down, so the Kemet refers to the original Nubian Mayetan culture of the Nile Valley Africans, and I took this as a direct quote from the book. And the belief is that there's one creator with divine attributes, like Hit-Huru, or Hathor, which, funny story about that, and then Huru or Horus, and, you know, there's others. So I'm going to take a tangent for a second. One of the goddesses that I was most attracted to many years ago firstly was goddess Hathor, and there one of her symbols or animals that's associated with her is a cow. And at the time, we were living in Tennessee, and more rural area, so we were surrounded a lot by cows, and whenever I would go out, I would look at them. First of all, it was so peaceful, and we would have just this 2-lane road. If y'all wanted to go anywhere, I had to go down this 2-lane road to get there. So I would see the cows, and I would always just have a level of peace. And then the whispers, the messaging, and things like that, and I knew it was Hathor, you know, the goddess speaking to me, and I was receptive. You know, I didn't go run out and set up an altar and claim anything. I was receptive. But I do remember that, and even now, she comes and she goes. It's not like a thing where it's like, you know, we're like this, you know, all the time. Maybe that'll change, but I find that interesting. So again, that kind of resonated with me when I was reading this because they talk about her. The other further understanding I got was about the 42 laws of Ma'at. Now, about that, my views on those laws. I respect the messaging, I respect the intention, I respect what is, you know, and those who follow. There were 3 that I struggle with. Okay, 3 out of the 42 laws, there were 3 that I had couldn't resonate with me. So the first one is, I will not abuse my sexuality. Left up to interpretation, or for someone to interpret, someone who is up this, who follows, you know, Kemetic law, if they were to explain that to me, one, that's still just their interpretation, right? But my thing is, what do we call abuse? Is it having sex with multiple partners? Is it, and remember, this book is written to women, so I'm keeping that in mind. Is it having sex with multiple partners? Is it having sex with same sex? Or all of the above? You know, it kind of, I don't really like doctrine and dogma. And I understand you can create your own rules to live by, or you could adopt these and it makes sense to you. But I'm just not that type of woman. Where for me, I think everybody is different. And I immediately go into my head, what about people who have more than one spouse? What about, or, you know, sexual partner they actively deal with? What about people who have an open lifestyle as far as sex? Where do they fit in? Are they not, you know what I mean? So I guess you would have to give that up to adopt this way of life. And the other one is, I will not copulate with a man's wife or with a woman's husband. And again, if you are a throuple or more than that, or if you're in a situation where, you know, you're poly, that might be an issue because, you know, the man's wife, the husband, you know, the woman, and all that stuff. So again, I think about these things because I know, you know, people like that exist, and they can also be spiritual and also be looking for enlightenment and also want to participate in becoming a sacred woman. So that might be an issue. And then finally, the other one was, I will not utter curses. I will not utter curses. So I'm assuming we might be just speaking language, curse words, or actual curses, which technically might be the same thing, right? I can't, doesn't resonate with me because I will utter a curse if I want to, if I need to. Understanding all the repercussions and consequences that may come with that, but still, I would like to be able to do that and still feel spiritual and sacred. So those were my issues with the 42 laws that they referenced in the book, which is the basis. What the author was saying is, you want to say those in the morning. She gives a specific time. I think it's between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. of that's a good spiritual time. So to go to bed early. To me, she's just giving women who want to become sacred women basically it's a lifestyle. That's what she said. It's a lifestyle to follow that is healthy, balanced. So the meditation, all that sort of stuff, it's spiritual, so that, you know, you're a well-rounded, balanced human being, woman, sacred woman. So I can appreciate that. I really can. I do appreciate the reference to ancestors. And she even gives specific ancestors, elders, and contemporaries to revere. So, you know, I don't dislike it because I like just the inclusion of that topic. I don't know. It was one of those things where, like, well, that's nice, but you know what? I kept thinking, if I don't know anything about this, she's providing me the fill in the blank. Okay, when you say elders and ancestors, what if it's not the people, you know, I know, or my own, you know. So she's helping you, like, fill in the blank, like, use, you know, this person, use that person. So, we'll let that go. So, my immediate feelings, it still feels religious to me. I know they say it's a way of life. It feels religious. And I think it was those 42 laws of Ma'at that's, and that's in the beginning. I think it kind of just stayed with me all the way through. And then there's a section about sexuality and, your womb being sacred, and I'm okay with that, but it's like, and then kind of like a push towards celibacy, low key, but seriously, a little bit of push towards celibacy, not indefinitely, but maybe during fasting, which is not the end of the world. And basically, if there is sexual expression, it's going to be for someone you are married to or engaged to be married to. And if that works for you, that's fine. I'm a married woman, but I wasn't always a married woman. And I don't necessarily, I think that that's a woman's choice. And I'm not a fan of people policing, or even under the umbrella of, sacred woman. You're more sacred if you don't have sex, basically. You know what I mean? I don't know. Because I don't think that it has to be that way. And it feels like there's a heavy influence from those other religions, the more popular religions. And she even references, and I kept trying to get this dang on little chart thing that she had up, but I probably won't find it in time. I'll find it as soon as I stop recording this video. But anyway, she had set up this little chart where she's basically saying something to the effect of, like, you're a sacred woman. You could be a sacred Christian woman. You can be a sacred Yoruba woman, sacred Muslim woman. And it went sort of like this, and something else, something turtle. I don't know. I think that's like a Indian thing. But the point is, no, I can't find it. But the point is, I noticed that she was, to me, it's like there was this thing to make it more appealing to the masses of African American women. And most African American women are going to either be Christian or Muslim. Let's just be real. So I think she was trying to make it more attractive to them. But while doing that, honestly, it was a turn off to me, because I am neither. So, yeah, I am divorced of what was Christian religion and theology and all that. Am I aware? Yes. Is it applicable in my spirituality at this point, or my life, my way of life? No. Do I think everything is bad? That's why. No, it's just, I don't want it. It took so long to dismantle that way of thinking. I was indoctrinated as a child, so it took years of adulthood, knowledge, reflection, and then starting all over again. There were times I was practicing witchcraft, and I was like scared of parts of witchcraft, scared, wanting to have connection to spirit, but terrified if I actually heard a voice or something happened, something supernatural happened. I was terrified of that. Or if you got a message, there's the excitement of receiving a message or some sort of symbol, but afraid because, oh my God, this stuff really works. And what does this mean? And always having this underlying feeling that something bad was going to happen because of what I was doing. Even though I wouldn't let those thoughts really bubble up too much to the surface to really explore them, they were there. And I just knew enough off of, those emotions, what it meant, but I didn't want to analyze it because I didn't, what if, fear. I sound like the fear that's embedded into those other religions. I don't like the idea to fear a deity. I detest that. So I don't fear. I can revere, I can respect, but I will never fear. So it's kind of gave me a little. They didn't speak about fear, but that place, those emotions, they were, that was like tapping into that for me a little bit. Like it was reminding me of the person in that headspace, that person in that headspace, as I continue to read. So a lot of it, majority is very beautiful, and these are just my overall thoughts. I think a lot of African American women could use this, especially just for the purpose of the rite of passage. because again, most African American women, they're going to be Christian or Muslim. So this is going to fit right in. Now, some people, because I was looking at some of the reviews for the book, because again, I'm curious and I like to take a whole view of my research. So I like to know what others are saying as well. Once I was finished the book, I didn't do this ahead of time because I didn't want to be jaded. But I remember reading this one review, something to the effect of the woman was saying that she thought the book was good. She useful, whatever, but she couldn't get into the altar thing because she just can't get into that. So I was like, she couldn't get into the altar thing because that would be going against her religion. So obviously, my thing is, well, and I thought to myself, well, if she can dismiss the altar thing, maybe I can dismiss those 3 laws and still, get on board with it. I do believe we need healing and nurturing that this book brings, because she talks about movement, dance, as far as healing and connecting to spirit. She talks about obviously the diet, the meditation, the journaling, and relationships and dealing with other women and sacred sister circles. So there's a lot more information besides just some of the little nitty picky things I picked out, but it was worth that. The ritual alone, I mean, I could see being inspired. I wouldn't adopt the entire ritual because I think it was meant for the path that this book is on, this spiritual path this book is referencing. However, I could understand adopting some of the aspects of the ritual and then making it your own. I think that would be really powerful to do that, because I think there was something in it. I like the idea of sister circles. It doesn't have to be African American women, but I love the idea of sister circles, because I think that when we gather, it is powerful, and when we put our intentions together. So I do like that. She talks about a 1st degree, 2nd degree, and 3rd degree, as far as like your path to becoming a sacred woman, and then there's these gateways. So it goes from 0 to 9, and I'll just briefly give you a quote from Gateway 0, the Sacred Womb. So the purpose of the 1st degree Sacred Woman training is to awaken us to the power of the womb as our physical and psychospiritual center. As we enter Gateway 0, we learn how to identify, cleanse, purify, heal, and honor one of the primary gateways of our spiritual power. So when I read that kept me going. So it's like I got over the first part, got in, and I was like, okay, well, that's very interesting, and I like the idea of sacred wombness and all of that. And then another, as far as about the gateways, quote, each gateway represents a spiritual rite of passage that will liberate you from your old life and usher you into a new way of being. And I wanted to read those quotes from the book, because I think that kind of says a lot about what the book's going to be about. So everything is supporting the sacred womb man. So everything is getting her balanced physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And then each gateway. So, and you can spend time on these gateways. It should take you some time from what she was saying. This is not something you do in a day or do in a week, but it would take you time to go through each one of the gateways. Overall, it's a rite of passage for each gateway that you go through to become more enlightened. And a gateway can be about food. It can be about, like I said, the first gateway is the sacred womb, and in between there's some other things there. So overall, I can understand why a lot of women are getting this book, because, I have to remember, I know this, but sometimes, and I think a lot of us do this, we get in our heads about how maybe you were raised in the world, your little world that you grew up in as a young woman. And it might, there were things that weren't great, and there was some negativity around you. Of course, that's the human experience. We're going to have that. But if you had overall support, or you felt supportive, support around you from your mother, your aunties, and stuff like that. You know, you kind of just went through. They may not have said all the right things or, you know, got it right, or they might have been coming with the heavy-handed Christian, you know, concepts at you, but it was always in love in most cases. Even when it was judgmental, sometimes it was usually in love. So, you know, we move on from that. But I have to remember there are a lot of other women who did not have that. The negativity on the outer world was also very much in their inner world. They did not have support. They had mothers who maybe were going through their own turmoil, psychologically, you know, emotionally, and you know, you got people, mothers and fathers, who succumb to heavy drug addictions, or you know, or mental, just not stable to raise children. And other family members did not step in. You didn't have aunties to help you or whatever. So, you know, people brought up in foster care and all kinds of situations where it's just not an ideal situation. But these people still survive. These women are still walking around here. You know, they're in their 20s and 30s and 40s, or, you know, obviously older, and they are still functioning. And they are, you know, walking around amongst us, living, producing more children. And some of these women will be maybe coming to this book, or maybe really need this book because they need some sort of rite of passage, some sort, all the lessons that maybe some of us got, not even under, you know, African spirituality, but to me, there is something here about woman-to-woman connection that you're going to probably get, not probably, you get from your mother, you know, your grandmom, your aunties, you know, her good girlfriends, and your peers possibly who had that as well, and they bring you in the folds into their circle, so you get a lot of the information. But I am completely understanding, and that thought came to my head, to remember that not everybody has that, and that's a lot of people. You know, we would like to believe that majority do, but majority don't. And these women are just, you know, they're here, and they could use structured understanding, a blueprint as far as to how to be a balanced person. So I can understand the need for that book. I definitely understand that. Or even if you did have that, but you rejected it for whatever reason, because I know that's a thing too. People who come from loving homes and families, but they chose else, and it exposed them to abuse and to a lot of negativity and things in their life that they didn't have to go through, but unfortunately made decisions that put them in that situation, and they're still living it out, you know, in their 20s and 30s and 40s. So I understand, and I recognize that. So I would say to those women, for sure, I could understand them needing that. Now, not to be contrite or to, you know, speak negatively, because I don't mean this when I say this. Me personally reading it, I got further understanding on some principles that I had heard about years ago, but now I get it a little bit more. It was explained beautifully to me, and I respect that. Now I can hold on to that information and use it when appropriate. However, I'm already living a lot of what they talk about right now, so I really I don't see me using this book too much as a reference, because maybe, like I said, maybe for the rite of passage, the rituals they talk about, I can understand that, and maybe some degree the altar setup. It's like this image here. I hope you guys can see that. This image here, like, this is pretty informative. I kind of like that. So I could see, you know, maybe using that. It's just inspiration or something like that, but just giving my honest feedback. That's about as far as I can go with it. I already excluded meat from my diet. Well, I'm pescatarian, so I'm in that process. I already practice spirituality. I do ancestor reverence. I'm all for healing your womb, and I understand the impact of womb healing. Excuse me. So, I do believe that I have a more my own sense of moral principles that I follow when I rise and when I go to sleep and throughout the day. So, and all the other stuff in between. I feel like I got a good handle on that. So it's beautiful, but I don't think this would be for me. So that's my review on that. So hopefully that was helpful. And if this is something that resonated with you, please don't get offended. I don't mean it like that. I just feel like I'm already there. So maybe before, maybe there was a time. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, when I was younger. You know what? That's the other thing. I felt like this is a book definitely for younger women. Maybe to kind of just, get on a certain path. So I could see that. But that's my review. Thank you for watching. This is Mika with Leap Taken. Please go ahead and like the video if you've enjoyed the content, and please subscribe if you have not already. I'd really appreciate it. And again, if you have subscribed, thank you so much. My numbers are growing, and I really appreciate that because I like doing these videos, so thanks.